some of the effects of sexual exploitation and sexual abuse in their own family. And Ben, both with personal experience in his family, but also as a medical student and a junior doctor and consultant for the future, is going to come and share a few thoughts about what this means for him personally and professionally. Ben, thank you.
Hello everyone, as you said, I'm Ben Sykes, I'm a medical student. I'm currently studying at the University of Manchester. I've been asked by the Children's Society to come talk today a bit about what it means for me and my family with regard to developing drug training strategies for interventions of child sexual exploitation. Unfortunately, I'm not here on the best of terms, quite tragic really, but in an attempt to turn something negative into something quite positive, I'm here today to share my experiences with you. So I guess to start, I'd like to start by saying I'm here today because my sister Sammy was murdered at the age of 18 years old. Sammy was not subject to child sexual exploitation herself, but died supporting a friend who was, called Christine. Sammy and Christine were murdered by an older man who was abusing and grooming Christine's older sister called Alice. And while I usually talk about Sammy and more about my sister and my family today, this is more about Christine, and that's more relevant for what we're all here for today. Alice and Christine were both looked after children from the age of 12 and 13 years old, and Christine was just 17 years old when she was stabbed 16 times. Christine was subject to child sexual exploitation, which started around the age of 12 years old when she was just a young girl. She was subsequently moved around the country in an attempt to keep her safe, but sadly this failed, and it left her isolated from anything and anyone that she knew. But having returned to the area, she got back in touch with Sammy and started to build a relationship. Traditionally, Sammy was more friendly with Alice, and Christine was her younger sister who she was just friendly with. But people said that Sammy liked to collect people, and she liked to support people who needed it, and perhaps because Christine came back with more baggage than what she left with, that's why they developed this new relationship that was independent from Alice as well. When Christine moved back, she spent some time living with a supportive living provider who was critical and concerned about her welfare and recognised that there may be signs of potential abuse. So she did the right thing and she passed this information on to the police and to social care. But sadly, we know that one police officer did respond by saying that Christine was choosing to go with these men. And despite the concerns that were raised, Christine was given her own personal accommodation at the age of 16 years old in a problematic inner city estate, which I think is a recipe for disaster really. Shortly after she moved into this new property, there were reports of fights and arguments between men outside, banging on the door, trying to get in, asking for sexual favours. And unfortunately, the only response that the services had this time was to issue Christine with an acceptable behavioural contract, which is something that we usually give to those who participate in regular antisocial behaviour. I wouldn't say that it's right or fair, and it's quite inappropriate to say that Christine was acting in an antisocial way. I think that she was probably way over the depth and actually needed some support from services at this time. On one occasion, Sammy met someone who claimed to be Christine's boyfriend, and she said he was an older Asian male that she was unfamiliar with, but being an open-minded person, she allowed him some time and spoke with him and Christine. And after, she described him as a controlling individual, and it transpired that he changed the SIM in Christine's phone, so she then received phone calls from strangers asking for sex and sexual favours, and another who asked to meet with her, where he gave her money and told her he would look after her should she need anything. Christine was known to a number of services, totaling 13 different health or care services, and did disclose abuse to a number of these. She did tell one care worker that she'd been raped, and told another that she didn't want to tell the full story because she had to return her flat alone. In addition to that, Christine had developed an eating disorder and suffered from nightmares related to past abuse, and she also had drug and alcohol problems since the men who abused her applied with these substances. The death of Sammy was very difficult for my family, particularly for me, but also more so for my parents as well. And in response to this tragic incident, a serious case review was published. And the serious case review found that there was a number of failures from services. And with regard to Christine, the failures included a reluctance to share information, impeded the assessment of Christine's vulnerability. I think that there were a number of red flags, and I'm sure that we'd all agree that some of the things I've talked about today, some of these incidents would be red flags for service providers, and that's why I feel that ultimately Christine was let down. As someone who works in a healthcare environment myself, I don't think that this was malicious, and I don't think that you guys sat here or anyone else that I've met wouldn't want to put a stop to the abuse, nor wouldn't they want to help Christine and keep her safe. It's the question now is why couldn't we keep Christine safe, and why did we let her down? The serious case review also talks about the lack of interagency and multi-agency communications, and perhaps this in part suggests that although sometimes we might know what the signs of abuse are, we don't always know what to do next and who to talk to about that. And again, if someone discloses abuse, do we know what we need to do in order to keep the person in front of us safe? My host of the training program. So my host of the training program will empower people to know what the signs of abuse are and to be able to acknowledge those, but also to know what to do next when we identify that someone might be at risk of abuse, and to take that forward. And again, if someone does disclose such abuse to us, we know who we need to talk to keep this patient safe. As I said in the past, we need to make sure that we listen to these young people when they are speaking, and make sure that we feel that they are being listened to. We need to make sure that we feel that they're in safe hands. And we also need to make sure that we can act as a voice for these young people as they may not have a voice of their own. If we're ever unsure about whether or not our concerns are legitimate, and we don't know whether we need to take it forward or not, it's always important that we discuss these with our colleagues and ensure that we're not missing an opportunity to put a stop to abuse. As I've travelled down here, I was sat in the train yesterday and I was thinking about this whole situation as a whole. And the more I think about it, the more that I come and talk about it, I do worry that there was a stigma attached to Christine, which I've alluded to a bit by the responses the services had and the police officers remarks when she was around 16 years old. I was wondering, did we give up on Christine at 12 years old? We were moving her around the country, we were trying to keep her safe, but by the time she was 16 years old, these previous attempts had come to a halt. And the police officer said she's choosing to go with these men, and I don't think that's a fair comment to make. I don't think we should blame people for making these decisions. Can we really hold them responsible for what's happened to her? I don't think that we can. It's very important that we maintain a blame-free culture when we deal with these sorts of people. We can't really expect that people are going to come in and open up to us about the most difficult topics to talk about when they feel that they're being judged by the healthcare professional, which is why, like I said, the blame-free culture is very, very important. Another thing that I've thought about when I look at this as a whole is that Sam seems to be doing the job that should be done by a number of healthcare professionals and a number of services. And because she was working sort of by herself within that professional training, and no one able to talk to her about that, the outcome that happened, although tragic, becomes more expected and less surprising. And that's what's very sad about this story. I'd just like to finish by just quickly talking about a charity which I think is a great charity that's been set up in memory of Sam, and that's been set up by my parents, and it's called the Sykes Foundation Trust. And the Sykes Foundation Trust has two aims, and the first aim is to support looked after children to get access to further and higher education through financial support for things like train tickets and travel costs, as well as equipment such as laptop computers and other cost-specific equipment. And they also work in partnership with non-profit organisations such as the Children's Societ, to support victims of child sexual exploitation by providing funds for interventions into child sexual exploitation. If anyone has got any questions, I'll try my best to answer them, although I can't guarantee I'll be able to, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to try. So thank you very much for your time.